Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. Today is Tuesday, May 11th. I have your top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thanks for choosing to be here to get filled in on what people are clicking on here in Northeast Ohio. We start off with an update about your taxes. If you are owed a tax refund from 2017, you have a couple of days to claim that refund. Otherwise, no luck for the future. The IRS has a big chunk of money from 4 years ago, and you might be entitled to some of it. The IRS is holding on to about $1.3 billion in tax refunds. That's for an estimated 1.3 million people who did not file their 2017 tax returns. So if you don't collect it by May 17th, if you don't file those 2017 tax returns by May 17th, which is the tax deadline this year, that money will become property of the U.S. Treasury. The IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig said in a statement that they want to give people these refunds, but you do need to file a 2017 tax return because there's only a 3-year window to claim the funds, and that year this closes on May 17th. The IRS said it calculates that half the refunds are for more than $865 each, and the other half are for less than that. And some of the people who didn't yet file that 2017 return could be eligible for the earned income tax credit based on your salary and your children, based on your income for that year and the number of qualifying children that you have. So if you might be one of those people, you're going to want to get that in there. Let's talk more about money. People want to know how gas prices in Ohio will be impacted by the cyber attack at the Colonial Pipeline. So right now, on average, gas prices are up 7 cents in Ohio in the last week, and so now people are wondering what's going to happen here. Well, let me give you a quick recap of the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack. That happened on May 7th. It's an American oil pipeline. It's in Houston, Texas. It carries fuel oil to mostly the southeast of the U.S. Well, there was a ransomware cyber attack that forced the pipeline to shut down. It is still shut down indefinitely. It halted those pipeline operations. President Joe Biden declared a state of emergency on Sunday, and he says this was believed to be the largest successful cyber attack on oil infrastructure in the country's history. Now, the FBI and various sources have attributed the hacking to the group DarkSide, which is not believed to be associated with any state government. So that's where that stands. Well, our reporter talked with Patrick DeHaan of Gas Buddy. Brandon Simmons had a conversation with him, and he said, thankfully, this will not impact prices here in Northeast Ohio because the Colonial Pipeline doesn't serve our area. Refineries throughout the Midwest are still churning out gasoline here. That's according to Patrick DeHaan. So prices being up in Ohio here, more a issue of supply and demand because production was reduced throughout the pandemic, and as things open back up, demand is outpacing the gas that's available. DeHaan says that if prices don't reach $3 a gallon before the 4th of July, then they probably won't get that high. But he also says that we shouldn't be too upset considering that $4 per gallon was the price point that we saw back in 2008 when the economy really fell apart. Speaking of gas and money, Sheetz, the popular gas station, is raising wages by $2 an hour for all employees, and it's looking to hire 2,000 more workers this summer. There are lots of Sheetz throughout the area, so if that's something that interests you, you might want to check that out. It'll be raising the wages for its over 18,000 employees, and that'll go into effect May 21st. And they also have a summer stimulus program that they're running that will add an additional $1 an hour throughout the summer. Right now, Sheetz has more than 600 stores in the U.S., and they are calling this $2 raise initiative a $50 million annual investment. Now let's take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers. These first global and national numbers come from Johns Hopkins University. Across the world, there have now been a total of 159,126,889 reported COVID-19 cases. The U.S. makes up about 20.6% of those cases at 32,754,611. There have been a total across the globe of 3,307,724 reported COVID-19 deaths. The U.S. makes up 17.6% of those deaths, with that number being 582,355 reported COVID-19 deaths here in the U.S. Now let's take a look at the Ohio numbers. In the last day, according to the Ohio Department of Health, we've seen 1,141 new cases of COVID-19. That's up significantly from what we saw yesterday. That's pretty typical of what we see from a Monday to a Tuesday with more cases reported. We have an update on reported deaths. As of today, there have been 13 more reported COVID-19 deaths that have come in confirmed to the Ohio Department of Health. That total number now at Ohio, 19,441. In the last day, we've seen 143 new hospitalizations related to COVID. That number is up, but the rest of these numbers are down. Right now, there are 973 people in the hospital being treated for COVID-19, below 1,000. Of those people, 288 are being treated in the intensive care unit, and we've seen 9 new ICU admissions in the last 24 hours. Looking at vaccination here in Ohio, more than 36% of Ohioans are now vaccinated. That's more than 4.2 million people. Almost 38,000 people getting fully vaccinated in the last day. Close to 42% of Ohioans have started the COVID-19 vaccine process. That's close to 4.9 million people, and more than 18,000 started that process in the last day. Speaking of people who can start that process, Governor Mike DeWine says that following Pfizer emergency use authorization, Ohio's 12 to 15-year-olds could be eligible for COVID-19 vaccines here in Ohio as soon as tomorrow on Wednesday. That approval came yesterday, late in the day, for Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for people aged 12 to 15. And the Biden administration says it's prepared to ship 20,000 pharmacies doses of COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer and also directly to pediatricians. Governor DeWine said, noting that the changes in the restrictions in the state, that it's hopeful that more and more people will get vaccinated. Some of those changes include that Ohioans who are fully vaccinated won't be required to quarantine after being exposed to COVID-19, and that nursing home employees who have been vaccinated no longer have to undergo regular COVID-19 testing, whereas other employees who are not vaccinated of nursing homes do still have to have multiple tests per week. The governor says what we're starting to see here is a natural distinction being made between people who are vaccinated and people who are not vaccinated. Now, we know Al Roker was here yesterday in Cleveland highlighting our city as part of the Today Show's Reopening America series, and he is back with the Today Show in New York, continuing to highlight Cleveland all week. And today, Cavaliers' Kevin Love was with him on the Today Show, and he had a pretty special announcement. Love said it's been great seeing life return to Cleveland. We just had the NFL draft here a couple weeks ago, and he says he thinks it's great to see how resilient the city is, and Ohio has been. And he says you really have to tip your hat to the first responders. He says that a organization called COA, which he calls the world's first mental health gym, is partnering with him to give away free emotional fitness classes this month. And you can apply for that at a link that we have on WKYC.com. He calls this a great way to start your emotional fitness journey. So you can see more from that on WKYC.com from Kevin Love. Now, as for what's next for Cleveland on the Today Show, Al Roker says they'll be highlighting the NASA Glenn Research Center right here in Cleveland next up, called An Amazing Place, run by women, and it's going to be part of the group that puts the first woman on the moon. So we have that to look forward to as the Today Show continues to highlight Cleveland. Now, speaking of the Cavs and their recent bringing back of a veteran who's been out of the league for several years, I'm talking about Anderson Varejao coming back to the Cavs. Our brand new defensive end, Jadeveon Clowney, is talking about what seems to be the Jacksonville Jaguars' plan to bring Tim Tebow back to the league, who hasn't played an NFL game since 2012. This report came out on Monday from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network that the Jacksonville Jaguars plan to sign Tim Tebow, you may remember him as a quarterback, as a tight end to a one-year contract in the coming days. Well, he's never played tight end before, and as I said, he hasn't played in an NFL game since 2012. So the Browns' newest defensive end, Jadeveon Clowney, shared a post from free agent wide receiver Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant wrote, "So Tebow hasn't played an NFL game in about a decade. It's that simple. No hate, but you got to be kidding me." And then Clowney shared that post. Now, here's an interesting fact that might be relevant here. Tebow played for Coach Urban Meyer at the University of Florida, who is the new Jacksonville head coach. Very interesting there. Also today, Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker Devin Bush posted, "Tebow got a job before Kaepernick," talking about Colin Kaepernick, who hasn't played a game in the league since his now famous protest to kneel during the national anthem, he said, "Wait until we play Jacksonville." Well, we're going to have to wait a little while for that because the Steelers don't play Jacksonville in the 2021 regular season, and neither do the Browns for that matter. But a lot of people are definitely scratching their head about this, and Clowney weighed in on it. So we'll see what happens if that actually comes to pass and Tim Tebow finds himself back on an NFL football field. That's it for your 3 News Now update for today, Tuesday, May 11th. I'll see you next up on What's New with your Clicking in Cleveland Trending Story segment, and also a little preview of this week's podcast, which is on re-entry anxiety with Cleveland Clinic psychologist Dr. Scott B. And I'll see you back here tomorrow for more 3 News Now. Between now and then, everyone, stay safe and be well. I'm Stephanie Haney.